Why do sensitivity analysis check the choices in this question and decide which choice is the best answer? Choice A, data is uncertain. That's correct. Because when we are not sure 100% about the data, so we need to go for sensitivity analysis and check different scenarios, different values, and see what happens under different scenarios, that each of them is possible. Choice B, make better decision. Absolutely, this is also correct. Because when we consider a wider range of possibilities, of course, we can make better decisions and at least prepare ourselves for different scenarios. Choice C, decide which data merits refinement. That's correct. Because when we notice the result of a financial analysis depends highly on a variable, for example, variable 1, in a way that when we change it 10% up, down, it impacts the results of our analysis. So it means that we need to be very careful about these numbers and we need to check them and work more on them to make that number more reliable. For example, you know that when you want to get more exact estimation of a variable, you need to put more time, energy, effort, and of course money on the speculation, on the estimation, on the prediction, on the classification phase of your project. So when we notice that the 10% is this much impactful, we are going to put more time to come up with an estimate that has tolerance of, for example, 5% instead of 10%. Choice D, focus managerial attention during implementation. That's also correct. You remember in the previous courses that we had, sessions that we had, I told you sensitivity analysis is opening some sort of perspectives to managerial level, especially when you go for charts and those type of thing and you are presenting those type of reports. So it attracts the attention of the managers. It is some sort of high level perspective compared to the in-depth perspective that while you are doing all those detailed calculations. So the best answer for this question, according to what just we discussed, is all of the above. During one of the examples we had previously, we referred to this approach. In that example, we did optimistic estimation and pessimistic estimation. But here now it is being introduced as a formal approach. For example, 3 scenario analysis: optimistic, pessimistic, most likely. And in our personal life, for our personal decision making, we usually do this type of thing. Rational people usually have that. they consider what is the worst case scenario that can happen. What are the consequences? They go also for the case, what is the best case scenario that can happen? What are the benefits? What are the consequences? And also, what is the most likely? For example, let's say most likely happens 80% chance, and optimistic 10, and here 10%. These numbers are not accurate. They are not, for example, strict numbers that every scenario should fit in this situation. But it is the common sense in this area. I have seen some investors that when they are doing their investment decision, they are completely optimistic. Exactly, I remember one case, a person was just deciding to insure something or not insuring something, although there was a chance of rain that could affect that event. He said that hopefully it's not gonna rain. So in his decision making, he's considering to be optimistic. For the pessimistic also we have that. People go for the pessimistic, the most pessimistic scenarios, and under that condition they do their analysis. Don't think it is not logical. Many times in engineering project they consider the worst case scenario, even when there are chance of failure. For example, for this, they try to fix that. For example, when they are fixing a bridge, they are making a bridge, they should go for the worst case scenario. And that's the reason you see a bridge stands for more than 100 years in a perfect way, and it handles all situations because they consider even the worst cases in design and all those things. So it's completely and a personal decision making. That's the reason we don't have a rule that you should go. No, you should go the way you are more comfortable with that. And most of situation, people go for most likely, the things that you don't expect anything happen, although it's possible, but let's be hopeful for not. But the point is this, I want to tell you now. Let's go for the financial situation. When you go for the optimistic and you get the suggestion of, for example, project Y. When you go for pessimistic and you get project Y. So in that way, you would be very confident regarding this suggestion that is Y. And as we mentioned it before, is optimistic, go with Y, but pessimistic, go with Z. Now you need to work more on your analysis and that type of thing. For example, you go for more refinement on the data that you have, so you can be more exact. So the range of optimistic and pessimistic analysis becomes shorter. Instead of, for example, 10% tolerance, they go to 5%, to go to 2%. Now it's time for hands-on practice on what we just learned together. So here we have a case. The cost, present value, net annual benefit, useful life in years, and salvage value. That is the future value. So far, whenever we, in fact, before the topic of sensitivity analysis, we only had one column of data. That was most likely. But now, since we have uncertainty and the topic of sensitivity analysis, so now we have three estimates. Optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic. Optimistic is the best case scenario. Everything is great. Most likely, usually, something that we expect. We are not going to get surprised or disappointed. It is just something that we expect. Pessimistic, worst case scenario. So, of course, for cost, the best case scenario is the cheapest one, as you can see. And the worst case scenario is the most expensive. Net annual benefit on the other side, optimistic, is the highest one. So you see 210. And the pessimistic is the smallest one. The revenue is small. And in terms of useful life, in optimistic, you are gonna enjoy longer life of your project, your investment. You are gonna make that this 950 and you are gonna enjoy it for 12 years. So for example, if you are intending to keep your car for many years and you are considering as investment in comparison to, for example, leasing, you can see the role of useful life over there to see if it is worth it, and especially if you want to get a brand new car and you are checking, is it better for me to get a brand new car and keep it as long as possible for the useful life, or no, I should get a lease? So it depends on the useful life of your car. I mean, the time that it doesn't impose any major cost or any major maintenance. It just go well without any main issues. So I have noticed that some people say that immediately, for example, put the number, for example, 8. But it is very general number, because if you treat your car well, you take a good care of it and follow all the instructions and warming, changing oil and maintenance and all those things, maybe it increases, for example, to 15 years. Maybe it increases to 20 years in comparison to sometimes 5 years, 6 years. So it changed a lot. And when it says useful life in years, 12 years in comparison to 8, that's the reason optimistic. Because it creates more income, more benefit for the fixed amount of money that you have paid here. And the salvage value, optimistic, higher because it's income. Okay, buddies, stop the video and try to calculate internal rate of return for each case, and based on the results, discuss what you are gonna do. Stop the video. Okay, great job. And before I show you the answer, I'm gonna tell you 2 points. First, while you are doing this sensitivity analysis and this example, you notice that you are not using a new formula or anything. It is just new concept, new structure. So whatever you have learned before, you are using in this example. So it is just management of what you already know. Another thing that you have noticed, that internal rate of return for optimistic is the highest one, and after that most likely, and after that is the pessimistic one.